What is going on, my fellow Expanse aficionados? James Hancock here. I'm here to review and recap episode 12 of season 2, an episode that was called The Monster and the Rocket, for reasons that'll be abundantly clear as we get toward the end of the recap. Ordinarily, when I do these videos, I tend to do a review and recap of the episode and then talk a little bit at the end about changes from the book. I'm going to change things up a little bit this time, because this is one of those episodes that was such a complete departure from the novel. It almost would be a waste of time to compare and contrast the whole way through. I'm just going to review this episode on its own merits, and I might say a few things about changes, but I don't want to waste my entire reaction video just to doing a compare and contrast. All I will say is that the book Caliban's War is a terrific novel, and there's a lot of spectacle and a lot of action that, just due to budgetary constraints and time constraints, we're just not getting to see this season. So if you want to get the full Expanse Season 2 experience, I strongly urge you to read Caliban's War. That said, this episode 12, was a very, very solid, strong episode, and I get where they're going now, and I sort of understand why some things have to go, why some things have to be condensed, because if you wanted to do The Expanse and do it for real, it'd be a billion-dollar television show. I mean, as written, it is cosmic space opera writ large, and there's just so much scope and so much scale and so much shit going on that you would need 7 major movie studios to collaborate to bring it to life. So while as a fan of the books, I might occasionally get a little frustrated when I see them taking shortcuts, I totally understand, because in general, this show, I feel like, does an excellent job of adapting at least the spirit of the novels, even if it's not a direct translation. Some might say I'm a bit of a snob by being overly loyal to the books. I just really happen to love the books, and but also love the show, so let's talk about episode 12. This is an episode where shit really starts to come to a head. Obviously, we're building to a massive season finale next episode, so it's really setting the stage. And yeah, all hell breaks loose on a variety of fronts. Politically speaking, Christian is really trying to find a way to negotiate a way to bring Jules Pierre Mao back to the table so that these horrible proto-molecule weapons he's developing do not get sold to Mars, and create a scenario where either Mars or Earth is forced to completely annihilate the other. Jules Pierre Mao obviously wants to be the wealthiest guy in the solar system, basically wants total political immunity for his entire family, and also be the sole person selling these weapons to both sides. While all that's going down, Aaron Wright kind of upsets the apple cart by not going to trial and testifying about his wrongdoing. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. What I do like seeing is Bobby and Christian finally on the same side. Have I been frustrated this season that we have not seen Bobby being the badass motherfucker that we all know and love her to be from the books? Yes, but I totally get that they're going a different direction with the character. I've said enough in previous episodes about my frustrations on that front. I don't want to repeat myself, but their friendship is a cool part from the book, so I'm glad that that at least is making the transition into the show. But yeah, the main thrust of this episode is just Ganymede is in full-blown implosion mode as systems are failing and oxygen's running out and rats are leaving the ship, and you've got this massive military face-off in orbit. Some people are being trapped, and it's just, no matter where you are in Ganymede, it's not a good place to be. And so you have dual efforts at the same time. On one hand, you have Alex, Prax, and Holden chasing down the proto-molecule creature that is on the loose on the surface of Ganymede, and then you have Amos and Naomi trying to help evacuate what refugees they can onto the ship, the Somnambulist, that they originally were able to sneak onto the surface of Ganymede by basically hitching a ride on board or taking it over temporarily. What's interesting about this episode is seeing all the tension between the family and friends from the Rocinante crew, because everybody's got different values and everybody's got different priorities, and when you have life or death scenarios, then obviously all those values are going to be put to the test. And sometimes things just don't have a nice, clean, easy answer. When it comes to choosing between the lesser of several evils, your morals and values have to be compromised sometimes. Or the question is, to what degree are you willing to compromise them? Are you willing to compromise them at all? And that is always what's the fun part about this show and this series of books, is these no-win situations people get put into, and how are they going to fight their way out of them. So when it comes to Amos and Naomi, they're basically trying to figure out how to get 52 people on board of a ship, or when they're about 105 or so, or 110 that really want to get on, when there's not oxygen for everybody. They basically have to fight a full-blown riot that's outside the doors of the airlock. Amos and the pilot of the ship are ready just to leave everybody behind. Naomi and Amos have a little scenario where Amos is trying to restrain her, and she just starts jacking him up with all these sedatives, and the look of shock on his face is absolutely priceless. I mean, Amos is by far my favorite character in the show. I'm always rooting for Amos, but it was kind of funny seeing him just totally blown away that Naomi just took him down and then put him in a chair. At any rate, Naomi goes out, and basically by virtue of the fact that she's willing to sacrifice herself and stay behind, she is able to speak reason to these people, and they get the women and children on board, or young women and young men, as well as the children, and the rest of them are willing to stay behind. And they basically all realize that life out in space is tough, and they all knew it when they signed up for it. And it actually is, it's not a scene from the books, but it is a pretty heartwarming moment as these guys essentially just man up and prepare to make the sacrifice so that some of their family members can survive in their place. But all hell breaks loose as they start flying into space, when they realize they're being told to turn around, either due to quarantine or due to this military face-off, but they're not being allowed to take off. But there's not a platform to return to because the whole station is just in full-blown collapse mode. Meanwhile, you got Holden and Alex chasing this protomolecule creature around, which continues to hide in more and more inaccessible areas. Alex is a little bit pissed because he feels like they're being lured into a trap by this creature who's clearly very, very intelligent. Prax thinks that it might actually be his daughter transformed, so he keeps like messing with Holden's hands on the targeting systems and doing everything he can to foul up the works. Holden is so hell-bent upon destroying the protomolecule. I'm surprised he doesn't put a bullet in the head of Prax for getting in his way, but he is definitely a man on a mission, probably way, way more so than need be because he's lost focus of everything else, but he's just absolutely fixated upon destroying the protomolecule. It's only when they realize that Naomi and Amos are going to be unable to defend themselves unless they go to their aid that they turn around, go up there, and Alex has a great hero moment as the torpedo's just about to hit Naomi and the somnambulist, and Alex swoops in, takes it out because Alex is a bad motherfucker. Holden goes into full-blown psycho mode in a good way, gets on the intercom, speaks to all the ships, and he's like, look, I'm escorting these people out of here. If y'all want to test me, by all means, but I will unload my full arsenal of this state-of-the-art Martian military technology so we'll all die together, or you can let me just sneak on through. It's a great badass moment for Holden. Holden, throughout the books and the show, always has these great moments where he essentially goes online. He goes on YouTube and starts talking shit or making these announcements, and they always seem to have a huge effect. Not necessarily always the effect that he wants them to have, but a huge effect, so they swoop on through. But the crazy part is that as they slide away, we see that down in the airlock, or no, the cargo area on the Rocinante, there's a big giant hole in the side, and the protomolecule creature is just chilling back there. So this is the end of my kind of spoiler-free zone, because I am going to talk a little bit about the book. But if you have read Caliban's War, we all know what's coming next. So it's interesting to see how they've chosen to make that confrontation on the Rocinante essentially the season end climax, whereas in the book of Caliban's War, that was kind of the climax before the major climax, because you had that giant battle in space and you had that giant battle at the Protogen laboratory, and all that shit very well might pop up in season 3. I really sincerely hope it does, but the reason I think it won't is that in the teaser for the final episode, we see people freaking out about something rising from the surface of Venus, and if you've read the books, you know what that's all about. So that makes me think that we're going to get the climax of Caliban's War without Bobby facing off with the protomolecule creature, without that huge giant space battle. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they will include those scenes, because the scenes where Holden goes aboard a ship that's infected with the protomolecule is one of my all-time favorite scenes in the books, but we'll just have to wait and see. But I will say this, as different as this episode was from the book, I really enjoyed it because at least it ended on a note that was familiar. And so I feel like while the show might waver and zig and zag and meander all around, it always returns to the path that has been carved initially by the authors of the series. So I feel like it might wander, but it'll always get back on track sooner or later. So very cool episode. It's going to be a sad thing when this season comes to an end, and yeah, I'll have an excuse to finish the series of books in between now and next year when season 3 rolls around. So Hope you enjoyed this recap and review. Please subscribe to my channel. Starting next week, I'm going to be reviewing the shows The Leftovers and Fargo Season 3 for both. I'm pretty much caught up on both of them, and I will be totally caught up before those shows begin. So I'm very fired up for that. And what else? That's it. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it.